Thanks for joining us here at Rose Quartz Mediumship podcast, where we simply adore anything and everything healing and metaphysically based. I'm going to tell you a story today that has been playing out in my reality for the past couple of months, and it's vulnerable because it involves my children, or one of my children. In the town that I live in, there is a elementary school that goes from kindergarten to third, and then a second elementary school that goes from fourth to sixth. And one of my sons was transitioning up into the second elementary school. He's in fourth grade. And so he's coming into a new environment, and while all the students remain the same, the school is different, the teachers are different, the principal is different, and the environment is different. And I think it must be so difficult for the school to decide which student goes with which teacher, right? There are about 4 classes in every grade. They break the kids up into groups of 4. And so when my son went back to school, there's always a little chaos around back to school time. And my child went from being happy and excited for life to really miserable. He was coming home from school sad. He was coming home from school frustrated. He was coming home from school quiet. He was asking not to go to school. He was asking to be homeschooled. He was begging. He was begging to be homeschooled. And I was in contact with his teacher, and then I requested a meeting because it wasn't getting any better. And I went into the meeting looking for the teacher to understand my child more deeply. And so we sat in the meeting and started dialoguing about what she was witnessing with my son and what I was witnessing at home with my son. And there was a couple things that I was really confident about. 1, she was not the problem. 2, he was not the problem. And 3, there was a problem. It was really clear in the meeting that the child who I knew, who I got to experience at home, was not the child who she was experiencing in the classroom. And we started by talking a little bit about who he is, who he's being, the way that he moves through the world, his authenticity and his uniqueness. And it didn't take long in the meeting to recognize that there was a frequency that she brought that might not be the right fit for my child. And again, she's not wrong, just like he's not wrong. But the fit might not be quite right. And the principal actually suggested that we go get my son and bring him into the meeting. And she asked, do you think that he's capable of joining the meeting and having a conversation? And I said, of course. So they went and got him, and he came in and he joined the meeting. And I watched this human who I have known and loved for years be a totally different version of him. He was so shut down. He was wildly uncomfortable in his body. He started talking baby talk. He made poor eye contact. He couldn't articulate himself in full thought patterns. And this is a child who will look me directly in the eyes, will actually look anybody in my reality in the eyes and have full conversation with them. And so I knew in 30 seconds that something was not a good fit here. And I won't get into all the details of the meeting, but at the end of the meeting, I knew a couple things. She was not the problem. He was not the problem. And there was a real problem. And so, as his parent, I made the decision to request that he be moved into a different classroom with a different teacher. And I was really careful to explain to the principal that I didn't think that the teacher was the problem. But I was also really confident that the way that his teacher moved through the world wasn't a way that was going to work for him, that he wasn't going to learn, that he was going to spend his day shut down rather than open and excited about the learning process. And so he did get to change classrooms. And on his first day in the new classroom, I kind of crossed my fingers and held my breath and just trusted that this fit was going to be what was right for him. And when I pulled up in my car to pick him up from school, he skipped across the playground to my car. And he popped open the door and he jumped inside and he was all smiles. And I asked him in a very excited way how his day was. And he told me how great it was. And he told me how happy he was. And then this is the part that blew my mind. He told me that he was proud of himself. And it rocked me back on my heels. I was hoping and anticipating that he was going to come home happy. But when he got into the car and he articulated for the first time in about 6 weeks that he was proud of himself, my heart hurt in all of the best ways. It hurt that I had left him in a classroom that wasn't a good fit for him for 6 weeks, in the hopes that him and his teacher would find common ground in a place where he would be able to learn. And it hurt thinking about the fact that for 6 weeks he had not felt proud of himself. And then it hurt in all the best ways that he had trusted me, that the school had trusted me, and that I had trusted myself enough to make this hard decision for my child. And as the days went on, I got to witness my child coming home happy, coming home excited. Instead of crying and telling me that he was sick and begging not to go to school and asking when we could start homeschool, he was asking me when he could do his homework, when I could practice his math with him. And he would come home with this piece of paper and show me how both he and his teacher, his new teacher, said that he was doing so great. And it was such a beautiful moment for me to really recognize that when we are in environments that are not healthy, that are not a frequency or vibrational match for us, and I'm not saying that those environments are wrong or bad, they're just wrong for us from a frequency or vibrational standpoint. When we are in environments that are not a frequency match, it impacts our self-worth. It impacts whether or not we are proud of ourselves. It impacts the way that we move through the world and the joy that we get to experience. And so if you feel like you are in an environment that is not the right fit for you, whether it is a relationship, a job, a house, a dynamic, whatever it is, a career, I don't care what it is. If you are in an environment that isn't a frequency or vibrational match for you, just know you don't have to stay there. It can feel hard. In some aspects, it was hard to make that decision. I didn't want to hurt the teacher who he originally had. I didn't want to upset the principal. I didn't want to make this transition and have it be difficult for my child to transition from one classroom to another. But more than that, I trusted that it wasn't the right frequency for him. And I trusted that there was a frequency that was right for him, where he would thrive rather than trying to survive. And so if you are in an environment that you are trying to survive in, just know that there is an environment out there where you will thrive. I promise you that. I don't know where it is. I don't know what it is. I don't know who's involved. But I know that there is an environment where you will thrive. And I genuinely want you and everybody else in this human experience to get the opportunity to be in environments where you thrive. Because we all deserve that. I hope that you are having a really beautiful morning, day, evening, or night, wherever it is that this podcast is finding you.